Guilty Gear Strive Season 4 is about to wrap up, and so I figured it would be a good time to post one final tier list for this version. The thing is, like last year, my opinions have changed a good amount since the ARC World Tour Finals. This season is pretty unique too, in that I'm kind of feeling like, because of how long it's been since there's been an update, that Lucy is going to come with a major balance patch and not the small tweaks we tend to see in the middle of the season. So we've really had a lot of time to marinate on this version of the game. There was an update to Season 4 pretty early. I want to say it was like early December 2024. It was kind of like an emergency patch, like a hot fix for some things that they went kind of too far on. In this video, I'm going to talk about the actual tiers, so what the tiers mean, and since this is the second tier list I'm making for this patch, I want to specifically talk about characters that have moved. So I will talk about all the characters in the game, but I'm going to talk about characters that have moved first, and then after that I'll talk about the rest of the characters, kind of like a summary of what's going on, but I basically think the same about them as I did back in March. So you'll notice first that the tier list names are actually more in depth than normal. I also want to say that this tier list is not in order, with a small exception of if a character is like at an end of a row. So take like Ramlethal, for example. So if someone comments on YouTube, how can you say that about Pot? I think Ram is the best character. I wouldn't really argue with them. I'd be like, okay, I can see that. I think it's kind of valid too. I may not 100% agree, but it's like something valid. So if the character is like at the end of a tier, it means that I think that if someone says they were one tier down, I wouldn't get too upset or like argue with them really. I'd be like, okay, like it's valid. And going from bottom to top here, so I have Aba as the counterpick character. I still kind of think this way about her. I just think she has a really unique position in the game, as she has really advantageous matchups and really disadvantageous matchups, and almost exclusively what we've seen from her in competition is people counterpicking with her. The difference between now and when I made my previous tier list video is that I went to Evo Japan, and I do think the Asia region has a lot more solo ABBA mains trying to play her than in EU NA, but I am somebody who plays in North America, so that's just my perspective on the character. Then above them, you have the top 24 / bracket ruiners. So this means these characters can get top 24 or worse. It's pretty uncommon you would see them any further than this. Now, the smaller the tournament, the more likely that there will be uncommon or unusual characters in the finals or top 8. So in the case of the characters I have in this like bracket ruiners group, in a smaller tournament, like a regional or something, it wouldn't be too crazy to see one of these characters, but it would be pretty surprising if you saw 2 or even 3. The tier above that are the top 8 characters. So in my opinion, these characters can top 8 super majors. They can win majors, which are slightly smaller or have like slightly less comp. And they've already won regionals for the most part. I didn't really fact check that. I kind of just based this around who I consider to be like the main representative of this, because of course I play Baiken. Now, I don't really think these are international winners. However, I do think these characters are pretty much the ideal power level for the game. Now, the characters above them, they're not actually above them. I know like in the picture they're above them, but these are, well, Unika is the newest character, so she's has her own asterisk, but Elphelt and Testament have just been on my mind a lot recently. Kai as well, low-key, but I kind of think these characters can win, and I'm pretty sure these are also top 8 characters power-wise. The main thing is that they don't really have a good rep. So Testament specifically has like online players. They're strong. I know they're strong online players who play Testament. They're just not like proven in offline play. So I don't really know where the character fits at the moment, but I do think both these characters are pretty strong. I do hear that many people think that Testament is very strong in this version as well, but I hear that slightly less about Elphelt. Well, right now I feel that Elphelt is pretty strong, and we'll get into that later. Now, above them are characters that I think could just win super majors. There's a lot of these as well, and this is something I talked about in my previous tier list. There's just a lot of strong characters right now. There's a lot of characters that could win. Probably the most in this game's history, but also this game is about to have 32 characters when Lucy comes out in August. Now, previously, my highest tier was called the Elite Four. I just thought it just was a nice name. Those were the characters I thought were definitely a tier above characters that I thought could win like really large events, the largest, most difficult events. So I kind of renamed these because originally there were 5 characters in here. I had Pot as well, but I really wanted to make sure, I guess I'm talking about 2 tiers at the same time, but I wanted to make sure that Pot was really specified that I think he's the best character. Where the other characters are also amazing. I don't think Pot is so much better than them. I just wanted to specify specifically that I think Pot is the best. Like, I think he's with the other 4 characters. Like, it's like 5 best characters. I just think Pot specifically is number 1. So we're going to start with characters that have moved places. So Bedman is a character that I moved up a tier. Bedman plays a mid-range zoning game simultaneously, and he has a couple unique quirks about this. So for starters, he has unique movement in his float, so he can kind of just hang here and move different ways, 8 directions actually. So he's kind of tricky to catch in the air. He also has follow-ups to his special moves that activate automatically after a certain period of time, or he can activate it immediately with a command, and also feint this action. This enables some pretty unique zoning patterns that other characters cannot do. He has a bunch of good stuff going for him too. So first off, he has very active attacks, and he's able to convert backdashes very easily compared to other characters. He does have gaps in his pressure, but the active frames cover that. He also has easy access to plus frames. He has moves like his 2-3-6-H, and he also has the follow-ups on air. From neutral, he could use the fireball follow-up, the automatic one, to just be plus from neutral. The float makes him difficult to anti-air. And he's a rare privilege character in that his jump as vacuum, so he can combo off retreating air buttons. This character also got a massive HP increase. I believe he is the character that got the most HP from this update, as despite the damage still being pretty high in this game, they have actually upped basically every character's HP. So he's now very tanky compared to Season 3. I think this character is pretty good at spending meter, so this is pretty expensive, but he has like White Wild Assault, and even though it's nerfed from Season 3, White Wild Assault RC is a great way to get in when you really want to press the issue. He has great effective range, and it's just really hard to get away from him because he converts really well, and because he's just really hard to get away from because he converts off backdash really well. And in a case you do have meter, you could spend on Beyblade and get this explosion to keep your offense going. He has this install super as well that he can spend meter on. It does have more meter penalty than other supers in the game, but I think it's a very powerful knowledge check, and he's not that common of a character, so if someone doesn't have a way of dealing with this, I think this is very good. But now for weaknesses, despite the HP buff, I think his defense is kind of weak. The standout thing is that he's able to convert his mashes into a pretty rewarding knockdown because, again, you get this error follow-up, but his reversal super is pretty slow. It's so slow, in fact, that there are cases where you can set up offense where you can cover it and recover, or just continue offense normally. His backdash is reactable, so it ends up being really easy to deal with, but it does have more invincibility than normal. So there's certain things that he can get away from that other characters cannot. With White Wild Assault being nerfed again is not really the big like guessing game forcing thing that you would do previously. It's minus on block now, so it is actually a pretty high commit, and he usually needs this plus burst to use it. But overall, I moved him here because I found his ability to endure in matches because of his additional HP and his meter usage to be a little bit better than I gave it credit for before. I think his lack of results mostly comes from not too much investment from people competing in like offlines. And it's really just because he's just kind of a weird character. So next I want to discuss Testament. Testament is also a mid-range zoner, but curiously enough, their approach to zoning comes from speed. This character is not necessarily fast, but has very fast options that can be hard to chase. So for example, 2K from Testament is a classic, huge, low profile normal that can be very hard for characters to deal with. This character has a very fast backdash at 18 frames. The character has strong retreating options like IID back fireball, and then defensive neutral options like 6P and 2H. So Testament uses a combination of projectiles, normals, and movement to control space. I think this character has a lot of good stuff going for them, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video. The character has both great pokes and counter pokes. Famously, there's this far slash, which is not the fastest of all time, but it's massive. And for the sake of conversions, you have Red Wild Assault, where previously this was kind of a dead zone for the character. 6P is not so huge horizontally. It is, let's say, bigger than Baiken, for example, but vertically, this move is massive. 2H is a really standout poke. This move has really low recovery, and even though it has a lot of startup, it's just an amazing move to throw out. Usually an opponent needs to really preempt this by running into the right spot with something like a 2S that's really long, or specifically guess that you're going to be there and tag them. And you know, I used one of Baiken's standout special moves, H Comedy, which is, it matches what I tend to use, and even then I was not at the right spot. Something like this is probably what you need to do. Now in season 4, they buffed fireballs too, so it's a little bit harder to swing directly into the character. In a previous version of the game, something like this would probably trade. Now, whether or not you actually feel this change will really depend on your character. As a Baiken player, I actually don't feel it that much. As mentioned before, I'm using this usually to kind of swing into Testament being in a spot doing something that's medium speed. But if you play a character like say Nago or something, you probably feel it. The character just gets more consistent over time. The far slash example that I mentioned before is a great example, as with the addition of red Wild Assault, now the character's conversion ability is much better, as again this is kind of a dead zone without red Wild Assault. But it's not just the addition of Wild Assault, but also changes to certain properties of moves, such as getting the 6H hard knockdown, which leads into Oki setups, or the Succubus not going away when Testament does a teleport, or a buff to Stain to make certain parts of this character's pressure more airtight than before. The character is a meter building powerhouse. This will seem like you can't escape, but you actually can. There's plenty of spots where you can actually guess against this, but if you choose not to because you're not sure what to do, then Testament will build a lot of meter, and this is a really core part of their game plan. But then on top of that, having Stain combo off throw makes it so that there's pretty rough situations in the corner specifically, as throw does so much wall damage that you instantly break the wall. For weaknesses, previously the biggest problem people had with Testament was that the character was too slow. So if you play trading card games, think of like summon costs. So I played Yu-Gi-Oh before I played like any video game competitively, and this idea, this concept of being able to play things quickly was extremely important in that game. And Testament kind of had this theme of they had to throw the fireball and then throw crow and then swing into you and then throw the fireball again and then throw crow and then swing into you. But other characters would just like hit you and then knock you down and then 50-50 you immediately and like win. Now, I think this is less of a problem overall because of how much more consistent Testament is with conversions. But now I feel like Testament's biggest problem is when characters have the ability to deal with the fireball specifically well or easily. I also put this character in the theory tier because even though I think they're pretty good right now, there's just not a lot of Testament results. You don't really see Testament on Arc World Tour. You don't really see people play Testament at big offline tournaments like Common Breaker or Frosty Faustings, or even in other regions like in Europe's Versus Fighting or UFA or at Evo Japan. And don't get me wrong, the character has results online, which is good. I just don't think the character has been tested on the biggest stage. So unfortunately, we're not really gonna know. I'm just pretty sure the character is pretty good. Next, we are going to be talking about Elphelt Valentine. So this is a mid-range character that's very focused on rushdown. This character is quite fast. A lot of us have joked about how she took Ram's speed when they nerfed Ram's run speed. And she has two very strong mix-up situations built into her kit meterlessly and one with meter. So first is the Rekka. This has unseeable highs, unseeable lows, and both the unseeable high and the unseeable low have follow-ups on them that are also high lows. She can exit safely or reset the situation. New to season 4, they added a dash cancel to her Rekka as well, opening up her offense even more. The grenade you saw is her other strong meters option which both gives her access to a left-right mix-up and a high-low mix-up. Similar to Millia's Capel, you can also use this as kind of like an anti-ground poke type move that people have to be wary of and convert against properly. The meter option is the bomb vest. They actually nerfed it in the current patch, but this used to last a lot longer, and her high lows actually activate this. And most importantly, it doesn't go away on hit, and this gives her looping offense with positive, which I find to be pretty strong. And speaking of strong, I think this character is really, really good. This character is fast, so she can threaten from mid-range pretty easily. And in the case of an unsuccessful approach or unsuccessful whip punish, she can start a guessing game with Rekka, or guess against your 6P with Wild Assault to start offense immediately. Now, while there's counterplay to all the stuff that she does, and this is pretty common for the block string rushdown characters of the game, it is a guess, and in tournament, you're only going to be right so much. The aforementioned Red Wild Assault not only helps with pressure, but also with conversions. So again, for example, if she catches you in the legs, it's a very easy wall break situation from round start, which is very valuable, considering her main mix-up style is these Rekkas. And if you have meter, you are able to do even more mix-ups. And again, these aren't really fuzzyable. I think the biggest thing Arxis did here was just giving her more consistent access to her strong situations. Red Wild Assault aside, another big change they did to her is that the shotgun knockdown is a hard knockdown now, where previously it used to be a soft knockdown, so she has more advantage. And this is not the best example of all time, but it just means she could set up grenade mix-ups and more. And needless to say that the Bomb Vest is a very, very, very powerful situation. It does not go away on hit again. So if you use something like YRC, you still have to deal with it. And in the case that you do hold it, she will be in positive, which means you have to block a lot of mix-ups because she has fast RC. There is some counterplay to this move, but again, even this nerfed version of it is incredibly powerful. While her defense is pretty standard initially, they did buff her 2P to be 4 frames. But as for weaknesses, she does have a few notable ones. So like Bedman, her reversal super is kind of slow. So she does get super PRC with it, but having a slow super is usually not the best thing of all time. And for being a fast character, her whip punish game is not as good as other characters overall. The reverse slash, while huge, is 11 frames. So dashing and with punching this can be a little bit difficult. You'll have to play a little bit closer if you want to use dash 2K for this same thing. So certain neutral interactions are going to feel a little bit difficult in that way. I do personally think that the reward on 2K2D with Red Wild Assault kind of makes up for this, but it's a valid complaint. What most of them will complain about is that it's very easy to low profile her pokes, which is valid, but she has both dash block to compensate for it and really good kicks, in my opinion at least. So I think that kind of makes up for that, but that's something that they have complained about since the character came out. So I also have her in this rank. She really does not see play in offline events at all. And at least from me checking, because I try to watch footage of all characters playing, I play a character that can reverse a lot of situations in a very unique way. So I do try to pay attention to what all the characters' player bases are doing. And I don't even see her really played in online events either like that, unlike Testament, who does have strong online representation. But I do have a pretty high impression of this character. And despite me not being a big fan of this character personally, she's one of those, like, if she kind of gets left alone or even improved, this is a character that I have like a how do you guys not see this type thought about, and I would low-key be interested in showing people what I mean. So next up, I want to talk about characters that I moved up from top 8 characters to winning characters. I've only done this with 2 characters, Giovanna and Ino, and these are probably a hot take, so I will explain each of them, as these are 2 of my most played matchups this patch. And first, we'll start with Gio. Giovanna's also a mid-range rushdown character, but she is extremely focused on whiff punishing. And her rushdown has a major emphasis on conditioning. So this character is one of the fastest characters in the game, but with meter, she gets even faster, and with full gauge, even faster. She also gets a buff to defense, which also has a further buff when she has 100% tension. She actually has like Potemkin HP when she has full meter. So for reference, we could do this simple combo with Baiken, bring the wall 6H, 136 on Gio, and on Pot, we get just about the same damage, like 1 point less damage, just showing that she has a ton of HP when she has full meter. She also gets a damage buff based around meter, so when she doesn't have meter, this is just a simple 5k counter hit B&B. So you can see where my life bar went, just pretty close to 50% honestly. But with 50 meter, this will do more damage, much more clearly above 50%. And at full meter, it will do even more damage. But that's not all. If you block a move normally, you just build risk. But at 50 meter, she'll start doing chip damage, and at 100 meter, she'll do even more chip damage. Needless to say, the character gets better with meter in all aspects. But keep in mind, this character is pretty good at converting hits into combos, so she does get access to this meter, and by breaking the wall she's gonna get positive bonus, which pretty much guarantees her to get the meter that she needs to become stronger. Her offense gets better with meter. The main thing you'd probably expect is strike throw using the meter to cover yourself, but the character also has access to strong 50/50s using resource as well. She has some unique defensive options in that her backdash is faster than other characters at 19 frames, and her standing jab is 4 frames. Now, she has a couple of important weaknesses despite them being small weaknesses, but we are talking about like winning large events and international events and all that, so these do matter. So in a game that's a lot about really forcing it down with strong 50/50s, this character has to earn her hits early game. So for example, she's good at converting hits into combos, but her main conversion generally is a soft knockdown. You also do have to generally strike throw people before you get access to meters. So before you actually get the ability to do BRC mix-ups or throw people very liberally, you need to build some meter first. That being said, as it starts from neutral with her good whip punish game, it's not like she doesn't get the opportunity to do these things. And it's a big reason why the highest level players of the player base are so focused on this skill. But that being said though, before the character has meter, if you see someone that's really skilled against Geo, you'll see counterplay like reversing things with throw from neutral, or the ability to instant block 2 and 4K, but also 6P, the spiral arrow at the same time. And even though she has an above average backdash and mash, she does kind of struggle on defense. And finally, on the tournament side, I think she takes a lot of stamina as a character because you're doing so much with punishing, and like I just think you have to be really locked in to play this character compared to how some characters have like neutral structures that they can set up from a distance or off their burst in comparison. All in all though, I think Giovanna is a very, very strong character, and I think she's been performing pretty consistently. I have a very high opinion of this character. Next we have Ino. So Ino is a unique and flexible character. She is also a rushdown character, so she's a block string rushdown character. You can think of her kind of like Elphelt. She does mix-ups in block strings, and she has a dash that puts her airborne instead of a normal run. So rather than moving around the screen and like whiff punching and stuff, she uses tricky movement and special properties on her moves in order to overwhelm the opponent. So I think she's really, really, really good right now. Frankly, I think she's kind of broken, but you know, there's our actual top tiers, so I can't literally say she's broken. So for special properties, she has things like stroke. This move is a fast traveling low that goes over pokes. It's been buffed recently so that it goes really, really low profile. This happening would not actually happen in previous versions of the game. This is because of a change they did to make sure that she was like really low the entire duration. But she also has her new special move, Mad Love Agitato. I always say it wrong. We call it MLA. And this move goes over lows. So in the case that you try to hard call stroke, which requires you using a low or something that slams the ground, but most people would do like a low, MLA will go over it and hit you. Moves that slam the ground do tend to beat this, but whether or not this works kind of just depends by your character. Now, the big thing about MLA is that it travels the same way as her dash, but it's kind of hard to parse. And most importantly, this move is an advantageous guard crush. It's technically not as good as other ones, as she doesn't legitimately get mix-ups off it the majority of the time, but she does get to start her offense. Now, her offense does have gaps, but like Elphelt, calling them out can lead to high reward and snowball situations. Now, the big thing is that they buffed this character's reward again. So this character got Red Wild Assault in Season 3, and previously she kind of had conversion problems, and you might remember what I said about Venom. So Ino was kind of like that previously, of she was doing a lot of mix-ups into nothing and not doing a lot of damage. But with Red Wild Assault, she was able to break the wall very easily, and her new special move also complemented this very well. But they buffed HCL so you could steer it down and have more frame advantage. It also helps a ton of conversions. And in the case that you can kind of zone her out, she can both use HCL to just hit you, or use her note to encourage someone to move out the way, or else block a mix-up right away. So for starters, her HP is kind of low, so she does die fast if you actually hit her. It's a pretty big problem to have at the moment, despite everyone having more HP than previous versions of the game. And because of her tricky movement with stroke and MLA and dive and her jumps and air dashes, she actually is vulnerable to a different type of strategy than other characters because she can't dash block in a traditional way. She can't like slightly dash and like stop herself. She has to kind of just do this hop. While she has this amazing 6p, you can position yourself so that it whiffs, which means the Ino player will have to judge the situation properly and meet you air versus air, retreat, or use a special move or something. This also applies to defense. She can't really like dash block really, so if you're playing this game, you're struggling against Ito escaping the corner, you're kind of letting them because she can't dash block. So if she's going to the top of the screen, you kind of have a feeling she's going to use something like dive, correct? So once you actually get her in this position, it can be reasonably difficult for her to escape, and she probably has to use a special move or a resource or something to get out. To be honest, I think she should probably lose to more characters, but I just think the improvements to HCL and her conversion ability just make her really threatening, especially in tournament. I do think the characters that just get 50-50s from buttons, from neutral, are like really especially strong in tournament. She's another character that they had just been making more consistent over time and giving more conversions and more damage over time. I want to specifically say in the case of this character, I think many people who play rushdown characters, block string specifically rushdown characters, have this problem, but they don't break the wall with Ino, so they don't feel her most powerful state. Or if they break the wall, they only break the wall with super. In particular, because her conversions are better, she gets more access to dive fast RC mix-ups, and she could be far more liberal with using stroke PRC. So essentially, it's like in positive, you kind of just have to pray they just spend the meter because they feel like it, because you can't really do anything when she has these two super powerful options. So next, I want to talk about a character that I moved from the winning tier to essentially the top tier of the game. So I'm talking about Ram here. So Ram is another mid-range character with the ability to play a very reactive neutral, and she can bully you in mid-range because she has huge normals like far slash, 5H, ID back JS, but also buffed buttons like JH in combination with her really good 6p and her top class kicks. This character has the ability to pressure you for quite a long time because she has a lot of advantage on her swords, but with some conditioning as well, she can steal turns and take time to get the swords back, as well as use resources like Wild Assault in order to get her swords back. Now, Ram's classic weakness was that she just wasn't that good at converting her far hits, but now she has things like Red Wild Assault, a buff to 2H, and if you can do it, the ability to single hit confirm into Zato for some return. Also, S sword being usable mid-screen also helps with these conversions. In the mid-range, it's not just the ground. Again, she has JH and JS, but also a top in class air stall. This move, for whatever reason, is plus on block as well. So Ram jumping in the air is stronger than it already was, and it already was really good because she has some more subtle tools like Tool 4S and JK. Going back to pressure, the changes to swords affects all skill levels. So when you're starting the game, you're going to think that Ram is really overwhelming and has just really canned mix-ups that are really hard to defend with. But at higher levels, you're going to think she's a meter building machine because in the case you don't know what to do, simply the testament, you just sit there and she's just building a ton of meter for her to eventually kill you. With meter, she gets a guard crush high-low, and this there's not really much you could do because the sword is a guard crush, and once you actually block it, you're just forced to take it. And like season 3, I think the character is good and positive because right now her goal is to get access to the sword toss 50-50 with meter, which positive makes very easy. Now she has a couple of minor weaknesses, so like Ino, her HP is kind of low, and for how much I mentioned her kicks are extremely good, she actually has problems converting this on normal hits at far ranges, and it doesn't combo into Zato. Depending on the character you play, with punishing her far slash and maybe 5H is not that difficult, and there are characters with both big buttons and fast characters that are pretty popular in tournament play, so that is a problem for her. But overall, I think she's a really powerful, consistent character, and the really big thing about being able to play mid-range well is that she doesn't really feel the run speed nerf. I know she doesn't look fast, but when she's here, she's actually quite fast, so she's able to play in a range where it's difficult to see what she does. And she also has massive disjoints, and also her jump is really good, and is very difficult to anti her. And she has the ability to wait for you and Twitch react to stuff that you do, but you can't do it to her. And then once she gets meter, she has powerful, very, very powerful 50/50s that you can't do anything about. So I think she's just extremely consistent. And now finally, the last character I'm going to go in a lot of detail about is Potemkin. So I think Potemkin is the best character in the game. As I mentioned before, if you think that like Ram is the best character, then I think it's fine. Or if you think Leo's the best character, I think it's fine. Or Goldlewis or something, I think that's fine. I don't think Potemkin is far and away the best character in the game. I just think he is the best character in the game. If you've been paying attention to the Guilty Gear Strive scene, you've probably seen people say this really early, but only a couple people, and it's just something that's kind of caught steam as the version of the game has developed, and I think it's a mildly common take right now. So there are a few things working together here with Potemkin to make him the current best character in the game. If you have a passive interest in the game, the main thing that people will mention is that they gave him a bunch of buffs in Season 4, but took away his ability to car cancel his 6k, which many Potemkin players enjoyed, so they gave it back to him. The result of that being the version of Potemkin we have right now. But it's a little bit more detailed to that, so for starters, he is the character that benefits the most from having high HP. Not just he has the most HP, that is a factor as well, but he benefits the most from having it. At this point, there are a ton of Twitter clips memeing about how Potemkin gets beat up and then wins in like 1 or 2 interactions because he dumps meter that you can argue didn't earn. It's up to you how you feel about that. But what I think is pretty objective is that he has some of the best meter spends in the game. Absolute best in class meter spends. Now, while I know this is not the actual route, Potemkin Buster Fast RC is massive reward. And a big thing here is that he can make this burst save by going straight into Heat Knuckle with fast Roman cancel, which I did not execute by the way, I know, but he has the ability to do it. Potemkin Buster from a fast PRC Hammerfall is extremely common and very strong. And again, if you look at the meter here, there's not a big meter expend. Now, the huge thing here is that because of how long Potemkin Buster is, the time it takes for meter penalty is gone. So he effectively spends like only 10 meter to do Hammerfall, Fast PRC, Potemkin Buster. He also has Gigantic. This super is just really good. And while there is counterplay, you have to actually be there. And once this thing's on the screen, it does not go away, even if he gets hit. On top of that, it lingers until it reaches the corner, and it'll sit in the corner like Aegis Reflector or something. And primarily it's because it costs meter, so that's why it stays on hit. But there's also other things too, like the ability to turn an armor full screen move into a powerful strike throw 50/50 in guard at impact. Guard at impact being a projectile now, so he does not get pushed away. And FD really just makes it so you don't take chip damage. There's also the risk reward of strike throw, so in the case you get pop bustered, he gets a bunch of meter, you get basically nothing, you take like 35-40ish%. In the case he makes you block, this is actually fine, but you have to worry about turnstiles, blue water salt, which just gives you guard impact on block, which is one of the best blue water salts in the game, of course. Using close slash as my strike, I take more damage than pop buster, but I still don't get that much meter, where pop gets a ton, plus positive, where he's going to start looping meter usage against me until he wins. In the case the character is full screen or fighting a zoner, he has anti-zoning tools like Slide Head, but he also has Flick, which has been heavily powered up. He's a little less consistent on normal hit as they take away his Wild Assault confirm, but he has various trade-offs like 5H hard knockdown. Because of the type of character he is, he's able to set up simple but strong 50/50s using guard and impact, and he has these a couple of ways between getting a block blue Wild Assault, scoring some type of knockdown, or as a meter spend. This move wall bounces now, which makes his highest damage conversions more accessible, especially from different ranges compared to before. As before, his highest damage combos actually required quite a bit of execution. The character's defense also got stronger. The main thing is that Pop Buster has armor now, and it's very fast at 5 frames. Combined with things like Hammerfall also having fast armor. Pop Buster having the armor makes it one of the best anti-shibby moves in the game, and many characters can't walk out of it, so you tend to need some pretty unique options in order to deal with it. Now, while I think he's the best, I don't think he's literally perfect. And frankly, a world where Pot is the best character is not great, but it's better than a world where HC is the best character, like when he came out, so there's that thing on the table. But he does have some weaknesses. It's very easy to set up mix-ups on Potemkin because of how tall he is. And because of how big he is, you can convert in ways that you can't against other characters, which I think is a pretty big deal. He also has traditional problems escaping the corner because he can neither run nor can he air dash. He can double jump, but he can't escape in traditional ways like dash block or dash jump. So that's why he does have things like back Mega Fist, forward Mega Fist, and I think why they gave him the armor on things like Hammerfall. He has to fight his way out, but also he has the HP to fight his way out, which means he has the HP to be wrong, which is fine, because that's usually what big bodies get. But this is the same HP that gives him meter for being wrong multiple times. Which is pretty much the big thing about why I think he's the best character, is that he just always gets access to his strongest things. They're incredibly strong right now, and you can be wrong the whole time and get them and then kill people extremely quickly with very high damage, not spending a lot of resource once you get the resource that you're going to get anyway, and can sometimes be very, if not totally, burst safe. So next, I want to talk about the two newest additions to the cast, Venom and Unika. So one I have a lot of time with, and one I have some time with. So we're going to start the one that I know better, which is Venom. Now, Venom is a mid-range zoner that sets pool balls on the screen. Each button puts the ball in a different part of the screen, and Venom can hit these balls, and they will go different ways depending on what button he presses into them. When he swings off it, he can cancel it as well. So there's actually a ton of stuff that they can do. And new to Strife specifically is that the ball will have momentum based on what he hits as well. So in old Guilty Gear, this would actually go full screen at a very slow pace. Honestly, really good. Where in this game, it will stop pretty quickly because he didn't use a lot of force, as opposed to pressing something like 5H, which will go full screen. He's a Guilty Gear veteran and a personal favorite of anyone who enjoys tactical characters. This character has some pretty good stuff going for him. So for starters, he's able to play at almost any range. So he has full screen projectiles in like Stinger and Air Carcass Raid. And then he has very unique ways of controlling space, using ball sets between using things like 5H to hit things full screen, or using 6P to hit things up, or even using 2H to hit things upwards. And since he can cancel off the balls, you can quickly set up things and just protect yourself and build a lot of meter. He's very good at building meter because all of these things are special moves. Once he does get meter, he has powerful supers. So he has Dark Angel. This is probably his main powerful super that combos into Robokai, and on block, he can basically run you down into the corner and set up offense. He has a comboable command grab, and in certain circumstances, he could make this command grab do a ton of damage. And he has a lot of variants on high-low mix-ups that are loopable, which I find to be pretty strong. Strengths aside, he does have a bunch of weaknesses right now. So in general, his damage is low. This is off 2K2D, and it doesn't do a lot. Not that characters do a lot of damage off 2K2D, but there are characters that either set up really high damage situations off 2K2D, which Venom generally does not do. So I go low here twice, looping the mix-up. You see that I don't really do that much damage. In the case of Baiken doing 2K, you have some strong mix-up opportunity here. And this gives you 50 meter immediately, so it actually is quite strong, and she can use that 50 meter to basically kill you. In the case of this confirmed, this kind of solves the problem because you can break the wall right away, but not only does it not do a lot of damage, but you're also using blue Wild Assault, so it actually is way more specific than using red Wild Assault. And he is good at looping offense, but you're really just giving meter and resource to your opponent by doing this. The command grab combo is amazing, but it is extremely situational. There's a lot of specifics on actually executing it. It's his strongest tactic for sure. Definitely something I would plan around if I played him. But unlike something like Baiken's clean hit gun in season 3, where she's definitely weaker than she is now, but that specific thing was extremely powerful enough to make a game plan around. The clean hit gun is way more accessible than this command grab combo. He does have some mid-screen conversion ability problems, primarily off far slash. There is a range where he just cannot convert it with Q5. Classic Venom would have you set up a ball, which is perfectly fine, I would say, but the conversion ability in this game right now is pretty high, so it is not enough. He does have a top class 2P for mashing, and it goes into hard knockdown. It's very easy to confirm, but he doesn't really have any other unique defense options, and his HP is low on top of that. So all in all, he does have strong situations to aim for. Dark Angel is really good, and his command grab is incredibly good. But the power level of the game is just too high for what he is right now. And then finally, Unika. So she's the newest addition to the game, so we have the least amount of time with her. So she's a slowish mid-range character with a major emphasis on conditioning opponents. She can upgrade her special moves, so she has something like a projectile, but if she uses her 6H, which is not an attack like other characters, she can actually upgrade her special moves and they get unique properties that you can use for various situations. Generally, these moves are safer on block. This is her 214K compared to her upgraded 214K, which is safer. Or her slide, which is extremely punishable normally at -17, compared to the enhanced version, which is an amazing -3. Or even her 236H, which is -5 normally, but becomes a plus on block guard crush if you upgrade it. She can play at many ranges as well. The projectile you've seen a bunch at this point, works full screen, but she also has JD, which is like JackO's JD, where you shoot this in the air and it upgrades her air 236H, so she actually covers a bunch of range. Her 236H in the air normally is kind of whatever, but with the upgrade, it has a lot of use. So I find Unika's mid-range to be pretty strong, so for starters, she does have the ability to whiff punish. Like Elphelt, this move is not fast, so it can be a little bit difficult, but it is a huge move, so you definitely have the ability to do it. Notably, her 2S is low, and she's very good at converting mid-range hits as well. In the case people are really turtling, you could use her slide to catch walk back, and her jump is kind of heavy, so she can catch an opponent unawares with dash jump H. Like a couple of other characters we mentioned, like Tessman and Elphelt, she has 2k 2D red water salt, which I will always find to be pretty strong. And outside of a slower paced game plan with whiff punishing and using kicks, she does have good preemptive options as well, not just things like slide RC, but massive buttons like her 5H. Now, once this character actually gets you to the corner, I think she really shines because she's just really good at holding the space. The 5H we just talked about is very good in this position and kind of catches jumps too on top of that, and it's very fast. It's really easy for her to confirm situations off buttons because all her buttons have follow-ups. So there are the slash follow-ups, which have a standing and crouching version, and there are the heavy follow-ups, which also has a standing and crouching version. Using these well helps her build meter and establish her presence, and she does a lot of damage where she actually hits you. Mostly, I think her main weaknesses is that she's not super amazing at hitting people, where characters have like 50-50s right away and stuff like that. But this move, while good as an overhead, and it hops over throws, can definitely be defended against. She doesn't have to spend meter on it, which is nice, especially because she's usually doing these things from over here. Probably her strongest straightforward mix-up is using the enhanced laser or using 5H OTG follow-up into either run-up or the laser to continue offense. Her return is incredibly high. Another problem she has is that a lot of her game is around calling passive options. So she has really strong situations like the follow-up to 5H, which is very advantageous at +14 when you dash cancel it. But if someone jumps forward, they can counter you pretty easily. So you need a way to deal with that. If you do hit them, they explode. She does a lot of damage, but it is something that you have to deal with, and it can be kind of annoying considering a lot of other characters, and especially the best characters, have relatively simple, accessible 50-50s either built into their kit or because they have some guard crush thing that they could do. All in all though, I think she's a solid character. We just haven't seen her a lot just because she's new. She does have good defense as well with her like DP and things like that. But I think we'll see with more time where she really falls. She is the newest character, so I am kind of unsure whether or not they'll actually do any changes to her because Arxis tends not to change the newest character in a major bounce patch. So for the rest of the cast, I'm going to have a short summary. I won't be going in as much detail as the characters that moved, but I did really want to spend some time on these characters because I've been really mulling on them. So we're going to start from the bottom, wink wink, with Abba. So to spice this up a little bit though, rather than just give you the summary, I'm going to share one change I want to see with each of the characters that I did not move on the tier list. So Abba is again in a unique position because she tends to be a counterpick character in the regions that I play in, which is I play with the European and North American and South American communities mostly. In the Asia region, I do see more people playing her solo, so they probably have a different perspective than I do, but she has very polarizing matchups due to the nature of her character, as she is a feast or famine character. So in normal mode, she is not fast. She does have big buttons, but they are quite slow, have a lot of recovery. She does have special properties on moves, like her hopping kick that goes over lows, or her slide that goes through mids. Your goal is to transform into Jealousy Rage, where she has a lot of the best of everything in the game. She has the best backdash, she has a great jump with great jump-ins, and extremely consistent conversions. Now, the character's biggest flaw, and the main reason why her matchups are so polarizing, mostly comes from that she has no real passive way of getting Jealousy Rage back. The only way she gets Jealousy Rage back is by making some form of contact with you, either by making you block key normals. Now, the way that she does this is either by making you block key normals, so there's something like her key grab, or just various normals. While there are structures to get resource back, especially if you can make them respect this because it's plus, you do have to get all the way over there. So if you play passively, you can avoid this from happening in a bunch of matchups. Her main defensive thing in normal mode is the fact that she has a fast smash in 2P, and it leads into hard knockdown, which gives her 25 back. So the number one thing I think they could give this character without doing anything too crazy is to buff this move. So this is her parry, and right now it is pretty difficult to use. It activates on frame 7. So I wonder if they can make it frame 6 or 5. Potemkin, for example, has a bunch of things that activate on frame 5 and are pretty annoying, but they are also attacks with armor, where when this actually activates, you kind of swing through it and you are invincible. But I kind of think this might be a little bit weird to balance, so I don't know. An alternative way of doing it without making this faster would be to give it a dash cancel. So that if they keep it on frame 7, at least she could dash after it and maybe do something. Oh, Dizzy is a set play zoner, so she can play at a variety of ranges, and she actually is quite fast. So she can play point blank, she can play here, and she can play here, with different projectiles depending on the range. So there's some that are universally strong, like the dagger is good here, and the dagger is good here, and the dagger is good here. But there are others that are really usable at specific ranges, like using the JD to retreat and put a projectile on the screen at the same time, but it doesn't go full screen. She has things like the Ice Spike that hit at different ranges, and the Ice Spike now has a follow-up that makes the stage a skating rink that both characters get affected by, kind of like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Field card. There are cases where she gets access to unique defensive options and reward because of this ice field. Giovanna, she has these wings of light, so and a lot of people credit this for why she might be slightly undertuned, but after a certain amount of time, she exchanges meter for unblockable damage. This seems strong in theory, but this takes a long time to set up. The timer resets after wall break, and when are you going to have 100 meter and have someone just casually standing here in front of you to take this damage? Now, her big thing is that she kind of doesn't really stand out in any regard, so it's not that she does things badly, is that a lot of characters do things well. For example, I describe her as a set play zoner, and while she does have the ability to do it, there are characters that do it a lot better. The opponent can use the ice against her as well, and at this point, famously, if Dizzy extends combos for a long time using the ice field, she builds the opponent a ton of meter, and right now meter is very, 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 very precious. So giving your opponent meter is not a good thing. I actually mentioned that I find this character to be a little bit difficult to balance, mostly because of the existence of Wings of Light, a move that doesn't require your opponent to get hit for you to win in theory. So ideally they do stuff to her normals and make her give her opponent less meter rather than buff her strategy around this, because I think if this becomes the game plan and is consistent, it is, I don't know, it's like one of the best things in the game. Like, to play a fighting game where you don't have to hit someone to win, or you only have to hit someone once and then just kind of do nothing to win, I think is extremely powerful. Then we have Axel. So Axel zones with normal attacks because he has these two chains. So he's able to play mid-range and further very passively. From full screen, he has the projectile clashing Rensen. Now at close ranges, uniquely, he actually is pretty good because he has really strong kicks and especially his 2K. I mentioned Testament before. And Axel probably has one of the best ones in the game. This one is 5 frames and low profile extremely quickly as well. Now before, he had kind of bad cancel options, so he did have like Rainwater being plus, and this move has changed quite a few times in this game. And Delay Snail for frame traps, but if someone blocked this, you lose the game, smiley face. But now they gave him Tornado. This has varied frame data, but tends to be -4, and it could be a pretty decent cancel option. So I think his main problem is, like Abba, he's polarizing, but unlike Abba, he doesn't have a broken mode. And also far more people solo main Axel than Abba. Characters that are fast or are plus for a long time give him a lot of problems because he doesn't have really unique defensive options. And he's not that good at opening characters up. He does have various tricks as basic as using Rising JH, or I've seen like really tricky left rights with meter, but other characters have far stronger mix-ups than he does. So he kind of relies on meter building, but since they're normals, people have to run into these normals, which luckily for him is the main counterplay to the character. He does well into setup characters because of how quickly these normals travel across the screen, in theory, but when those characters get started, he basically can't get out. Also, he has low health, which really doesn't help his case as he dies quickly. Now, he's in a tricky spot for me because he's a character that's kind of made around putting stuff in space. So I usually don't like when characters like this are that strong, but I've heard some Axel players ask for this to be slightly nerfed in exchange for some other buffs to other normals, which I think is pretty fair. Him being a counterpick character I think is kind of interesting, but like I said, people don't counterpick with him. They usually main him. So I probably would focus more on aspects of making sure that it's easier for him to control space. Next we have Zato. So he was considered to be a pretty strong character early on in the game, pretty much like a high tier character with a lot of representation in tournaments due to his level of control. But they nerfed him very hard in Season 3, and he has never really made a resurgence since then. They have buffed him since then, but kind of like peanuts, and it never seems like the Zato players are happy with what they give him. The character fights with his shadow, Eddie, and he can use Eddie to both control space and start powerful mix-ups from neutral. Zato mix-ups are pretty strong, and tend to have multiple layers to them, and executed well, he can mix you up multiple times in a sequence. He can combo off throw with Eddie, which is pretty strong. Eddie's gotten some buffs like Eddie moving faster and Pierce converting more consistently. A major complaint that Zato players had was how strong using system mechanics like burst and YRC were against him, but because of updates, it does have made it so that Eddie's HP recovers based on where he died. His command grab also instantly restores Eddie, which is a more recent change. All these things aside, he has the same general weaknesses, so his jabs got nerfed. They are nowhere near as strong as they used to be. And the biggest thing is, unlike other characters we talked about like Venom, he cannot convert these. And his HP is very low, which you've heard. And his HP is very low on top of that, which again is not a good thing for the game in its current state. And even with the speed buff to Eddie, a lot of characters are pretty good at hitting this. In Zato's case, despite buffs he's got to help out, his problems against characters remain. So while it probably feels better to play him straight up, it probably feels difficult to play him into other characters. In his case, I'm pretty sure that people would want certain things to be reverted. Specifically his jabs, I think, would be pretty good to have reverted, or something like Break the Law to be reverted so that it baits burst again, which would open up his game a lot and make up for some of his other weaknesses. Reversions are rare in this game, but they have happened. See Potemkin and Dakara. So then we have Asuka, who is also a set play zoner, but he's this game's resident magic user. So he has 3 sets of decks which he can change between, and each deck has a different theme. So the default one is more focused on neutral, where the second one is focused on offensive spells that give you high lows, and the third one is, let's say, focusing on special effects. Now, because he's doing so many special moves, he actually builds meter at a very fast rate, and because of this, he could use his bookmark super to both get the cards that he wants, but you could even change the deck you're using to get really unique combinations. He has a best-in-class burst because of how strong his full-screen presence is. And there is an aspect of randomness at the beginning of the round, as he will start with a different hand at the beginning of every round, but they have long since found ways to kind of route into the situations that they would like. For starters, Asuka himself is not that great. His moves are not fast and they have a lot of recovery. His backdash is below average, and he does have a reversal, but it's behind a card. And it is not fast. Now he does have the most HP, but not by a big margin because, so there's a couple of reasons. One, he has the option of using his HP to recover mana, but two, in the case that the mana is broken, he has by far the worst HP in the game. He also received another round of nerfs to some powerful spells recently, making it so Fire Cube doesn't start with max cubes. You have to wait in order to get the most powerful version where he shoots 5, for example. Now, this is another character that personally for me is difficult to improve. This will be a little bit spicy, but I know there's a lot of people who want him to be improved. I check everything. I look at like Reddit, I look at Twitter, I watch people's streams and stuff. And there are a lot of people who are like, man, he's struggling, they should improve him. But I don't like what he does. He's kind of just fills the screen with a lot of nonsense. I don't really know how to put it. On top of that, my main Baiken is like her worst matchup is him. So I would much prefer them to improve something about him specifically rather than making it about buffing cards and spells. That's my personal recommendation. If you need to be convinced, just go back and watch older versions of him and see what they used to do to people and just ask yourself if that's something you want to play about, and then you will understand why I feel this way. So we have Slayer. This is a powerhouse of a character. He is one of the only characters in the game that has a move that instantly wall splats in Pile Bunker. He does a lot of damage, and despite him not being a fast character, he has very good normals like 5k, 2h, especially as long as you don't whiff it, as it has a lot of recovery, 6h as well. He can approach very quickly using either K Mappa or P Mappa. And depending on how it hits, it has a different amount of advantage, and he's able to really control this space in front of him pretty well. On top of all that, he has a command grab that turns everything into massive reward, and it makes his mix-ups overall better. Now, I think he has a couple of important weaknesses. This character used to be top tier, like straight up, but one is actually his HP is lower than before. So we talked about Bedman, how Bedman had a huge HP increase, but Slayer is kind of in the middle of the pack right now. And then the other problem is that his neutral is pretty linear, so he doesn't have a lot of like air stalling stuff, and he does have an excellent dash jump. He goes very, very far with his dash jump. But outside of that, his main ways of approaching and moving around neutral are either walking around, dashing, which is a step dash, using Mappa, or using P and K Dandy to slide around the screen. He does move quickly using these moves, but he's vulnerable the entire time. Depending on your character, this can be pretty annoying for him to deal with if this is a big part of your neutral game. He has a very invincible backdash, but he's only invincible while he's gone. So as soon as he appears again, you can hit him. The trade-off being that he can attack right away with Hand of Doom, introducing some unique defensive applications that other characters do not have. While he's a very explosive character, I do think he's pretty reasonable. He has like strengths and weaknesses. He's a character that I think fares a little bit better in tournaments because of how explosive he is as a character. He formerly had like an air stall on his jump D in previous games. So I wonder if he should have like a new like property on a move or something, because I kind of think he's pretty well balanced right now. Then we have JackO, who's also a set-played zoning character. She summons minions to use in neutral, and similar to Venom, she can hit them and use them in pressure, neutral, and combos. She can do attack and defense commands, and she can power them up with her cheer supers. The minion summon itself is very fast, leading to her having a quite good burst situation. And because pulling minions are considered a special move, her sequences have a lot of frame advantage, and she builds meter very quickly, which can lead to overwhelming situations. And defensively, she also has a very good 2k and a faster backdash than normal. She has a lot of weaknesses that other characters have in the game, so She does have low HP, for example, and she actually builds risk quite quickly compared to other characters. While her neutral is good, she is also pretty bad at escaping the corner, so she does have the really good mashing 2K, but her dash jump doesn't go very far, and her main stalling tool is JD, which moves her backwards, so she can't really like get over people and stall. She has to kind of force it or fight her way out as normal, or lunge at you with something like 2D or 5H. If you could stop her from setting up minions either by holding this space or your character just naturally being able to do it by lunging from here or doing some type of big move from here, it could be pretty hard for her to set up as she can't summon minions in the air. Now, the main thing I hear from JackO players is that they specifically want this explosion move to be buffed. A lot of people say this is the worst move in the game or one of the worst moves in the game, and they really want it to be improved. I don't think it's one of the worst moves in the game, but I get why people do say that. And if they did something to the move to make people use it a little bit more, then probably people will say that less. Next, we have Millia. So Millia is a high-speed character. She's classified as rushdown, but she is not so much a block string rushdown character as she is a hit into knockdown into mix-up character. She is easily both one of the fastest characters in the game and the most mobile character in the game. So if you want to know what that means, she is very fast on the ground, but she also has an air dash which she can act faster than other characters, especially her air backdash, which previously looked like this, but now you can cancel much faster. She has mobility special moves like Turbo Fall, which also goes through people and even takes the corner, and Capel, which is a move that's designed to fight anti-airs. Capel was initially nerfed really hard in Season 4, but they actually made it so that you could attack much faster out of it, so you could follow up with JH, which leads to some pretty unique offensive options now. She is the originator of 2K2D into Win in this game with 2K2D into H-Disc, and her meter spam with things like Bad Moon means that she could spend 50 meter to either combo you or mix you up twice. She got a new move, Artemis, that is both really safe on block and puts her in an advantageous position for control, as well as a combo tool that wall bounces. You can use this knockdown in order to keep up offense near the corner if you want. She has a fast 2P like Abba and Elphelt, but also a very fast backdash and a high jump, so despite not having an invincible reversal, she does have a very unique set of defensive options. For weaknesses, the first very obvious one would definitely be HP. She has one of the lowest HP totals in the game, not counting Asuka of no mana. It should be the second worst at the moment. She also has a bunch of system flaws that are left over from Exert and Guilty Gear. So she builds risk faster than other characters. Her throw is small. There are systems like the Flex Shield that can weaken some of her offensive capabilities. As her block string offense is not the best of all time because she has a rotating close slash, which does have advantages, don't get me wrong, but it also makes it a little bit easier to see what she's doing at some points. You can say that she needs to score a good hit in order to start her game plan. This is another character though that I think is pretty much fine. Again, there are a bunch of characters that I think have good strengths and good weaknesses and can kind of stay like that. If anything, I would probably make it so that S-Disc would combo more consistently from far slash, especially from walking away. When you use this move well, you're usually running forward. If you don't run far enough, it can whiff. And sometimes you might not be able to make the judgment call of you should be doing a run-up kick instead. I kind of think the reason why she can't do it from the absolute max range from like no running momentum is because she has the option to do dash kick or dash 2P, especially the whiff punish. But I think also having this into S-Disc would kind of complete this set, and it's not massive reward as well, as she has blue wall assault, so it's not like she would get far slash red wall assault into a gigantic combo. So then we have Faust. Faust is an item throw character that generally plays from further ranges. This character has generally been considered to be one of the weaker characters in the game, but he has basically gotten buffs in every single patch. Now the items he throws do come out at random, and the item toss itself is not fast like other Arxis games, but in exchange there is no limit to how many items can be on the screen, which can cause honestly chaos. Despite his height, he has an excellent backwalk and he has these crawls, and crawls go under characters normals. when you're learning how to fight Faust, you have to get very familiar with things just not reaching him when he is crawling. But he also has a high super jump along with a unique air dash in this game. He has some excellent anti-airs. He has 2k, 2s for when someone is above you off screen, 6p despite the dead zone, and 5k. His super is slow, but it does mean his super PRC is quite good. And he has good applications for meter. He has things like Tornado into mix-up, Teleport PRC, and for covering his strike throw, as he has a command grab that is very high return because it applies to Afro immediately, which is a strong status effect that gives him access to extremely strong mix-ups. Faust is unique in that he has a couple of ways to win between playing defensively, command grabbing people, and using items to do mix-ups from neutral. Now, the character has a few problems, so they nerfed one of his best moves, J2K, so that it pretty much is always minus on block. Usually, at best, you can get this to around a -4 to -3. It could be really hard to space this way. He does have huge pokes, but a fast character will make you feel that instantly. Now, he doesn't perform very well at close ranges, and a lot of the stuff he does is quite negative on block. That's why they gave him some additional pushback on things like his 5H, or give him guard crush on his scalpel pull when you charge it. He is tall too. Due to his height, certain things work on him that don't work on other characters. And due to his low guts, he dies faster than you would expect. If a character has a way of stopping him from setting up items, and this doesn't even have to be like speed, it could just be like reach or special move or setting up something to counter, he can struggle as well. Like Asuka, this is an archetype I'm not a really big fan of. I made a video actually about how broken I think item throw characters are in the past as well, which low-key I should redo now that I'm better at making videos, I think. But I do think he's pretty reasonable as he is now. They have also given him things like item eat to cover his cancel options and golf club so he can swing items into you. So they've already been giving him stuff. So he's like a character that it's hard for me to like conceive what to actually give him. It's way easier for me to think of things to take away regularly, like making items go away on hit, smiley face. But I actually think like a lot of the other characters in this tier that he's in, that he is a reasonably well-balanced character, and I'm pretty happy with how he is. So then we have Kai, and Kai was actually a little bit controversial recently, but this character is a all-around character. He's fast, but not too fast. He's got good ground pokes, but not the best of all time. He has a good projectile, but not the best one in the game. He has a meterless DP, but it's not even close to the best one in the game. He has decent Oki with projectile coverage, but again, not the best in the game. And to make him stand out a little bit more, the devs made a change in order to try to get people to use shock state more and keep people in shock state more. The main one being around HGP comboing. Now, unlike Testament though, they did not actually extend the duration of shock state, so it can be a little bit difficult to kind of keep this up. They have nerfed prior conversions that he had, where he would be able to do a couple Fudorax and combo you into the corner in order to encourage you to use shock state more. He also received nerfs to a couple of normals like 6H on block and 5H on block. He also received nerfs to a couple of normals like his 6H on block. Now previously, I think that people were really saying that he's less flexible because you're forced to use shock state all the time, but you don't have a long time to use it. And the nerf to his standard conversions is basically that you need shock state to do your biggest combos. And you would say that he's kind of reliant on committing in offense because, like Unika, he is not really good at opening people up because he doesn't have a lot of easy access to mix-ups outside of things of like dust and stuff. Now, however, it's not like he doesn't have 50-50s, even if he doesn't get it like quickly, as he could high-low you in situations like these. But I think the biggest thing that's slept on is actually Dragon Install, and it's very, very powerful, probably the best it's ever been, and it's just something that people are not using. So a lot of suggestions that people have for the character is to try to revert him to, but I think they have to make the pre-Dragon Install Kai be a little bit more intuitive, or encourage people to use Dragon Install even more, because people are still not really using it in all the regions despite how good it is. I have Baiken, so she's an all-rounder type, leaning more towards mix-ups and defense. She has some really good normals like far slash and 2S, and some good mid-range control with moves like H Kabari. Now the thing that really ties her game plan together is two things. So she has Tether, which makes it so that the opponent can no longer run away from you. On the one hand, she gets better combos than normal, but on the other hand, your opponent could use this against you as well. Now her other unique thing is that she has Meteor's Reversal, parry, that has a lot of advantage, but she could also do it out of block stun, which is Hidaki, which is very, very strong when used correctly, but a very difficult move to use. She has quite a few weaknesses, enough for me to like go in detail in a video, but I'm not going to do that. The main ones that matter a lot is that she has really, really awkward conversion problems a lot with her jab, for example, which is a fast mash button, but she just kind of can't convert it sometimes, especially if they're standing. Despite buffs to far slash, there are still situations where this whiffs, but that happens to other characters as well. She cannot use the guard cancel against guard crush attacks, and of course her parry loses to projectiles. So there's still ways of mounting pretty safe offense against her depending on what character you play. The aforementioned far slash problem also, more importantly, happens on 2S as well, so it happens to both her slash buttons. And unlike a bunch of characters in the game, and despite having this very active far slash, she doesn't really convert it on backdash either. We're not saying that she needs it, it's just like something that other characters have that she doesn't have. And it is curious because she has the active frames to catch the backdash. I really don't think they need to give her like that much. There's really two ways they could go with it. Probably the number one ask would be to make her convert off this a little bit better, specifically because she is the defensive character. So it's like you have this and you have this, but you can miss this. It's a little bit frustrating. Or you buff like some other part of conversion. The one that people I think definitely don't want is this to be bigger. So one that I think would be kind of interesting would be to make the JD hard knockdown, because right now it sends full screen. Another way they could go is to just give her a small quality life change to the guard cancel that makes it so that in the case that she would block, but this would whiff, the guard cancel activates. Besides that, I think she's pretty good, if not volatile, but a little bit of that volatility would be removed if they just let her even just like combo her jab more often. So Bridget is a neutral, rush out, and set play character. So she's pretty well rounded. She has big buttons and a fast good backdash and a fast 2K and a DP on top of having mix-ups as well. She has a projectile plus good mobility. Her main goal is to set this yo-yo like a mine and use this to threaten space and try to mix it up from full screen, then loop offensive mix-ups. But she has some weaknesses, so for starters, this roll of hers has a massive hurt box compared to before to compensate for the steering they gave her that she has now. Her HP is low to my knowledge, but also she hasn't gotten damage buffs unlike a lot of other characters, as other characters got more damage to compensate for the increased defense. And surprisingly, despite all the movement, you can pin her in the corner pretty easily, as she has pretty standard movement options if she does not have the mine out. Bridget's pretty interesting because she has a pretty well-rounded toolkit already, so I think the easiest way to change her while keeping her kind of the same is to up her damage slightly, and then everything else is the same. Again, she has pretty much everything. Fast, big buttons, set play, good defense, good backdash, good DP. Like, she has everything. So if she killed a little bit faster, especially considering who is the best character in the game, she probably would really like that. Next we have Soul, who's supposed to be a well-rounded character, but he actually is not. He tends to lead mid-range and closer, and he's quite offense focused, as he has a lot of special exceptions on normals, like his close slash having more frame advantage, his far slash being plus, which is probably the most famous one, and a lot of really good point blank buttons like his 2K, anti-air 5K, anti-air 5P. Like Slayer, he has a guaranteed wall spat in H Volcanic Viper, which actually can be pretty interesting to use against people's bursts when you're building your combos. And once against meter, you can use Bandit Revolver Fast RC for strong 50-50s. It's a simple but effective game plan. Try to get meter and then cash out with a 50-50 using the meter to get a win. The main thing is, while he does have big pokes and counter pokes he can use like 2S and 6S, the majority of his moves are pretty stubby. Notable is things like 5k not being a traditional like horizontal 5k. So even though this was like one of the best anti-airs, and it's still good anti-air, it has a lot of recovery and not a lot of horizontal reach. His far slash is plus on block, but it's not disjoint, so he really struggles against kicks. So if he's not in, he's not like in. He's not very fast. So the combination of him being stubby and not being that quick means that you could really try to control space against him, and he has to really work his way in before he starts his gameplay. He's another character I try to think about what you would give him, because I think he's pretty reasonable. So I do think he's like a winning character, but he has the pretty defined weakness of it's not easy for him to get in. He has to run you down. He has to approach almost everybody, and he's not really good at like amazing at doing it, and he has to either get here or like pick the right time to use this big move with a lot of recovery that loses his XP. If anything, probably some new combo tool. Like this is like a combo character. People always like coming up with combos with him, so that's the first thing that comes to mind for me, while keeping him relatively the same because I think he's pretty fair. Sin is a neutral all-around type character, so he plays in mid-range with tools like Elphelt, Beak Driver, but also pokes like Far Slash and 2S. His damage has been high since Season 3, but they buffed his special moves more so that they have Guard Crush follow-ups now that you can pull up after. His reward is quite high, and he's able to break the wall pretty easily. His defense is all around good because he has a big DP, and his long traveling backstep. Main weaknesses tend to be around the stamina meter, despite him having other small problems like his jump is not being super amazing or not really having a cross up air normal. Mainly in that it takes a long time for the stamina gauge to come back. So this is their #1 complaint, that it takes a long time, and that he uniquely has a not that super good guard crush, as he cannot walk out of your throw tech when he does these, which means he has to commit to higher commit options. The only thing though is that he can use other resources in order to make up for lack of stamina, mainly Wild Assault or Meter, but it is still pretty pronounced, and the stamina thing will help inform you what they want to do or might want to do. Going back to his jump, he also has a stall that is pretty slow and that you can snipe, but overall his damage is very high, his neutral control is pretty good, and especially once he breaks the wall, I think positive bonus really helps him manage his resource, and it's pretty accessible because he can break the wall really reliably. Now, Nago is one of the best performing characters in the game's lifespan. He is the boss of arcade mode, and he also plays like one. So typically, when you start the round, he has access to powerful special moves that are really hard to deal with, and then after using a few of these, then you have to deal with his powered up normal moves that cover a bunch of space, and he uses these to get access to his special moves again. If he wants, he can purposely use all the resource and go into Blood Rage. It can be a little risky, but now you get return for using this and doing this in combos. So he ends up being a pretty flexible character as well. Now, despite his strength being so overwhelming though, he does have the slow backdash that you can react to, and his jumps are slower than other characters. This is 5 frames and this is 10 frames, and so much that you can see the difference. If you play the right character, and I am not playing one by the way, you can whip punch a ton of his stuff on reaction, making it hard for him to use a lot of his moveset very easily. And I would say that he shows his hand in a pretty direct way because he's showing it with his resource. He's one of the characters that does not have a new move, which is definitely pretty spooky because again, he's one of the characters that's done the best in this game's lifespan. The potential for him is that they just give him a new move. I probably should set up Versol, and that's also on the table for Zato, Leo, and Kai as well, as I believe there's still 5 characters left that don't have new moves. Mei is a neutral and rushdown character, so she's a simple character at a glance, and she is basically built around this move, the Dolphin. She has multiple versions and follow-ups on them, so she has horizontal and vertical ones, and then ones that travel different durations. So this is S, which is fast, but is not plus, and this is H, which is slow, but has advantage, and she can also do them vertically as well. You could also hop off the Dolphin and jump using the Dolphin, and it's steerable. So despite a lot of her moveset being around this, there's a lot of things you can do with the Dolphin. She had absolute best-in-class normals like 5k and far slash, and these have been tweaked in Season 4 in various ways. Most notably, her damage output is pretty high right now, so there's things like being counter hit like 5H, which famously explodes you, and in Season 4, they made it launch. It did not launch before. But also there is the addition of Red Water Salt, which makes it so that she can combo off things that she could not combo off of before. Rushdown wise, she has strong, fast normals with good frame advantage. She's able to control space from a distance very safely. She can press the issue with S Dolphin, and she has strike and throw, and the throw uniquely is extremely difficult to burst. Her defense is surprisingly good. She has a fast jab, and it is very easy and extremely consistent to convert this into a soft down. And with 100 meters, she has Orca, which gives you a mix-up. So expensive, but strong. I don't really think she has any super major flaws. She is not bad at getting out of the corner. Not only do you have this to mash on and jabs, but also she has a high jump, but she falls fast, which can make it kind of tricky to keep her in the corner. And previously, she used to not convert, but now she does. She has a bunch of freedom, but I would want her conversion ability to be slightly lowered, because I think the main reason she's still very strong and stronger than people give her credit for, outside of all the unique little jank things about her normals and movement and stuff like that, is just that she converts more often now than before. So she's a character that I wouldn't mind seeing the same, but just like with 10% less damage. Now Chipp is another speedster type, but his movement used to be more linear, but they gave him this move, which gives him his wall run moves anywhere now on the rope. He has way more combo ability and pressure because of this move. He is the fastest character in the game, and he's pretty mobile. He can jump and air dash and jump again. And he has 3 jumps and various air stalls and ways to go from the air to the ground and ground to the air, on top of, again, the rope. And he's really good at building meter, both because of his speed and because he's always hitting you. And his pressure is a lot about either stealing turns with Gamma Blade, staggering them, or using his Rekkas. And because of this, he's able to build meter really quickly. A couple of these resets, and he gets a bunch of meter. His defense is also pretty good, so he has a far traveling backdash, and he has a DP, most notably, and he has fast buttons to mash on. His conversion ability is quite good, as he has Red Wild Assault. But also, if you have the awareness to use it, the tightrope as well. His most obvious weakness would be his low HP, as he has the lowest HP in the game. But if he had any more, he would just be the best character in the game. He really doesn't like low profile moves, nor does he like active moves. And because of a previous change made in Season 2, it is much less punishing to be wrong on Rekkas than before. But I low-key think Tightrope kind of fixed this problem. He's another character that's kind of hard to conceive what to give. He has Tightrope, which is pretty ridiculous as a move. When the move's out on the screen, he converts off everything. I'm also on team low HP is not a weakness, but for the way the game is right now, I think it's kind of fine. It seems like they're having fun. So I'm going to say pass on this one. I actually have tried thinking about what I would change about him for a while, but I low-key think he's okay as is, so I would neither buff nor like nerf him really. Happy Chaos is another one of the best performing characters in the game, and he is a quote-unquote zoner, but he uses this gun, which tracks, and he can shoot you with the gun from anywhere, and either he stays in place or he can run and gun. He can upgrade these by using a curse ball and make the tracking a lot faster, or he can make it so that he focuses so that he can shoot more bullets before he has to actually run out of concentration. As far as his moves, he has very strong kicks. Notably, his 2K is a low profile. His 2S is a massive low with good return. He has a great backdash, one of the best jump attacks in the game with not just JH, but also J2K. Great mix-ups, great zoning, wall breaks from basically anywhere as long as you have resource, even when he has low resource, or retreating, hit confirms. He just has a lot going for him. His HP is actually lower in this version, so he's more like Zato HP. And this character is actually not that good at getting out of the corner, despite how good J2K is. He doesn't have an H button outside of the gun, and his S buttons do have notable recovery. If your character has some type of reversal, you can make it difficult for him to continue offense as well. And due to the nature of the character's combos, he actually builds quite a bit of resource for the opponent on hit, mostly due to this super plus scaling things. All in all though, it's still HC, it's still the tracking gun that's plus that mixes you up for anywhere. So the character is still very good. Some people think he's straight up top tier still. I actually still wouldn't mind seeing him get nerfed further. There's a couple of ways they can go between nerfing J2K or doing some other system thing to him by either like making him not have as much concentration or something. I just think this thing is fundamentally too good, like just period. And while the thing about building the opponent resource is a weakness for him, if he didn't do that, he would be even stronger. So then we have Anji, which is probably a character you've been hearing more and more about from high level players. This character is incredibly powerful, and low-key a test of someone's competence in the game might be their opinion on Anji. I'm not going to lie. So he is a mid-range character as well. He is very focused on conditioning, but it is very much based around the existence of this move, spin. So in season 3 he got this move, Mirare, a fish counter. Then the intent of this move was to stop people from using like jabs and fast moves against spin, because there was a ton of really effective counterplay against spin. But because of the addition of this move, you can't really use most of your move set against him. So while he has a bunch of weaknesses like things having gap or things being easy to whip punish, the trade-off is you can't really do stuff back to him very easily, as if you do it, he's going to knock you down immediately. Even if you have a way to protect yourself, if you block this, it's invincible and is a plus 11 guard crush, so you can start his offense anyway. So that aspect of him is quite strong, but the other aspect of him that's quite strong is how much meter he builds. So his main special move for offense is fusion, and there are various follow-ups that do different things, like a low and a high and a hop reset that's not that useful, and the fan reset, which is quite useful because it's plus. Now everything has a weakness here. The low is punishable into a combo, as is the fan, as is the hop, and if you block the high, you can get a close slash starter. The problem is there's nothing that beats everything, and the way that the high is right now is that it knocks down right away. So if you try to hedge your bets, then you're giving him meter for free, and he has very high HP, so he's going to get meter anyway. The character is very strong with meter, and he has a great defensive super in parry that of course can break the wall here, and they also kind of reduce the counterplay against this, as the super now goes the correct way far more often than before. So again, he naturally does have flaws in his kit because of all the gaps, but he also makes it so you can't do that much too, so he has a lot of initiative. I do think that it's important for him to have a lot of this threat and conditioning, and that's what people enjoy about him. So the number one thing I would like to see is some type of change to Mirare that makes it easier to fight against. If they didn't do that, then I would want Nagisa to be even more punishable. This is definitely a little bit of Baiken bias, because you did see my Nagisa punish was Yozansen, as there are some effective ranges where I can't really punish with something that he feels. So one of those two would be okay, because again, I do think he does have significant weaknesses despite having so many strengths as well. You've heard about Goldlewis quite a bit at this point. He's been top tier for a very long time as well. He's one of the problem characters that they nerfed from 4.0. The character knocks down up everything, and he has strong neutral presence with moves like Drone and Skyfish to fight zoning. Depending on your character, he can be very difficult to anti-air in mid-range, and he has the amazing defensive neutral moves like 5k or jump back JD. Security builds incredibly quickly. Going from level 2 to level 3 is not that fast, but going from level 1 to level 2 is quite fast. His burst situation is strong between drone and burn it down, and somehow he has one of the best anti-airs in the game in 2p, and is also good against reversals as a safe jab. He has amazing pressure, as many of his behemoth typhoons are plus unblocked guard crushes, and he has security cancels as well to keep you on your toes. Even in the case that you block everything, you are taking chip damage. It's less than before, but it's still notable. The big thing though is that as a big body, like I mentioned, Potemkin, he does have problems getting out the corner. His pokes are amazing defensively, but not for really getting out of stuff. He does have an air dash, but he does not have a double jump, and his jump is slower than normal, so he can have some difficulties here, which is why you see them do things like reversal, drone, and stuff to help them get out of the corner. His fastest normal is 2p, but this can be low profiled or even 6p. And the character has stuff with a lot of recovery. He does have high HP, so he is going to get meter, and he is good at using it. And personally, my thing is, I don't actually mind that he is really good when he corners you and is rushing you down. I think that's like kind of the point of the character. So I actually want one of his anti-zoning things to be slightly weakened, and not even drone, which might be surprising considering how strong I think this is. I actually think it should be Skyfish, and the fact that he can like control it instead of dumping it all, I think is insane for a character like this. And he should be forced to spend 1 bar or something to nerf the move. Then we have Leo. So he is also one of the best performing characters in the game. He is an all-rounder focused on offense, and he's especially good in mid-range. He is a close-range character, but he is good at getting from here to here and really making the most of it. In the case that a character does stop him from approaching easily, he has things like Sonic Boom and his guard point, which has varied use depending on the character he's playing against. He has one of the best jabs in the game, and his dash is just really amazing, and his dash throw is one of the best pokes in the game. His main mechanic is this back turn stance that he gets either through Turbulence, this special move that he can combo into in some cases, a hard knockdown using HTP into Zwite itself, which is also a cross-up attack, or a successful throw. And in this mode, he has lows, a fast overhead, he can cancel things, and just generally make your life miserable. He can combine his highs and lows with things like backturn P and backturn S to mess with your timing. And new to this patch is that his backdash is now invincible in backturn, which he did not have before. And he has sliding normals, which both help with combos, which means he doesn't have to spend Wild Assault as much to combo out of backturn as he used to. But it also extends pressure, making it much more difficult to deal with backturn. And some characters are just really can't handle it. Essentially, Leo does not like active buttons or kicks because his slash buttons are not active, slash and heavy slash. And he has to use a lot of unusual ways of controlling space. So things like using the guard point as a disjoint or using Sonic Boom. Again, like Goldlewis, I do think backturn is like his defined stance, so it could probably be left alone, and this is a rare case of reverting a move, but Turbulence should not have the massive pushback that it does, I think, because it makes it difficult for people to deal with, and it makes backturn way more accessible than it used to be. I don't think the backdash should be invincible either. If they keep the backdash being invincible, I would like to see his backturn parry be nerfed, because he has both the parry and the invincible backdash. And then finally, Johnny. So Johnny has pretty much been the same since 3.2. They gave him some important changes in that patch, which is why he is top tier. So they buffed his dash to be 15 frames, so his movement is basically invisible. His dash is extremely quick, as is his backdash. It's hard to actually see where he is, but he also has massive normals like /, 5H, 6H, and 2S. And he can convert these pretty consistently. He could use either Misfinder, S Misfinder in some ranges, but not max range, or he can use Red Wild Assault. He's pretty good at naturally building meter since you're using Miscancel and Misfinder a lot. If a character can't deal with Misfinder on block, you can kind of just spam it. And if they can, you could use the safe data of Heavy Button into Misstance or Retreat to build meter. Once he has meter, he has very strong high-low, as S Misfinder is an instant overhead. And when he actually hits you, he can set up card, and the follow-up to the card, when you cut the card, gives you a guard crush. So he's able to keep up his offense very reliably. Notable is that the card makes it so that he can combo off his high-low without using meter. So you essentially get 2 mix-ups for cutting the card on top of meter that you could use later. And despite the step dash, so he cannot dash block, but he can dash jump like Slayer, and his is also very good. But unlike Slayer, he has multiple stalling options that he can do multiple times, and he can cut at various angles, on top of having excellent jump-ins like JH and JK. In addition to the high-low meter spend, he can also use things like Vault as well. So really, his main weaknesses are that he can be whiff punished when you use the slash button. On top of that, he's not a big fan of low-profile moves. He can't dash block, so he can't use defensive techniques like other characters, like using dash block to mitigate pressure versus situation, and he kind of has to fight his way out of pressure, but he has the HP and the reward to do so. I somewhat feel like he can keep the dash speed, and if they reduce the advantage on cutting the card, it would make his sequencing a little bit weaker, and that's probably the way to go. Alternatively, something to make this fighter either more easy to punish or less rewarding. The one I've heard the most is making this not a medium counter hit anymore. But yeah, that was a lot. That's all the characters. I really wanted to spend time on the characters that I think moved up and down. I probably want to talk about Baiken again before a new patch. We're going to be talking about Lucy and stuff. I am recording this before Evo, and this is basically my final thoughts on the patch, also assuming that the update and Lucy come out relatively quickly after Evo. The balance is an interesting spot. I think if you don't compete, the game can be pretty fun, also pretty frustrating because probably not just your character is strong, but everyone else's character is strong, and some characters are very, very strong and also very, very accessible, and if you don't have specific counterplay, it could feel extremely overwhelming. But I do have this thing, and I expressed this sentiment in the previous tier list of I have a feeling that all fighting game devs, not just ASW, want people to feel like they can pick any character and at least have fun or be able to do fun and cool things. Like I said on Twitter, I think being a battle planner for the game, balancing the game is very hard because you have to balance both for competition and both for fun and new people and casual players. I think it's a very difficult thing to do. So I am very much looking forward to seeing what they do with the game. As usual, if you have any questions or comments too, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you're looking for Guilty Gear coaching or anything like that, at metafy.gg/@LordKnight. I stream on most days on Twitch at twitch.tv/LordKnight. And there we chill, practice, hang out, and record videos for my second channel, which is LordKnight Chronicles on YouTube. If you want to support this channel as well, I do have a Patreon that I try to update a couple times a week with a bunch of stuff over there, so go check that out. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.